All right, my friends, for starters, let's just go over the basics. If you need to, get better at TV mounting, I'll just show you what I use. I use the bare essentials. And so I always use DeWalt just because it fits the brand that I wanted, but it doesn't matter. I use this impact driver. It's a compact impact driver, so it's, much smaller than, let's say, a drill, and it's smaller than these. This one's obviously bigger. I've used these, I've used this one. I started out with this one. This is how I started my business with the Black & Decker. It would still work just fine for most everything except for brick. And so this guy is what I use. And then for bits, I just carry one little bit kit. And mostly I'm using, little bits. And then this one, you drill one pilot hole with this, make it bigger with this, and then, mount the bracket. I use bigger ones when I'm using, the plastic anchors, the expansion anchors. This 1/2 inch is what I use to drill the lag bolts in. And there's a bunch of other heads up here for situations where, I don't know, there's always situations that arise where sometimes you need different bits. But I've got a few different varieties. I use this one right here for when I'm doing sometimes brickwork, when I use Tapcons. Tapcons are the blue, it's short for tapping into concrete. And I use those often, but I'll do a separate video on brick because it's a little different animal. Level, self-explanatory. Tape, I obviously use the yellow because it fits the brand, but any painter's tape will be fine, obviously. So what I have done is pruned it down to its essentials, but you could use anything you want. I'm not partial to DeWalt. I'm agnostic about tool brands. I use DeWalt because it fits the brand look I wanted for the mounting man, as you can see. Electrical tape. Tape measure. I use one that extends out without bending. It extends out probably 10 feet. It says, I think, 13, but it doesn't really. I use this laser to measure distances when the wall is a lot, bigger. It's helpful. I think it could have been $50. I don't know. It's inexpensive anyway. I sometimes use this. So, when you're drilling, you're putting the braces on the back of the TV. This would be serious overkill. You can put it down to setting 1 if you want. I just, use it very slowly because you don't want to have this, potentially vibrate the TV so hard that the screen could be affected. A lot of people just hand drill them in, and so you do it whichever way you're comfortable with. I've mounted like 2,000 TVs and never had a problem just using the drill because I'm safe about it. But if you're worried about it, just hand screw them in. And that's really it. I've also got pliers for situations where sometimes pliers are helpful. And then this is what I use, the Franklin sensor. It's fantastic. It goes to a depth of 1.7 inches. Most stud finders are 1.5. I know that doesn't sound like much, but sometimes when you're dealing with plaster, it can be helpful. And I'll go over plaster in another video. But that's all I use for that. And for cleanup, I use this. And so I carry these 2 boxes along with me. This box, the little one, and then this one, I put this in. I use this for a vacuum. It's fantastic. Just a little thing. I sling it over my shoulder. Usually I just set it on the floor. And what I do often is when I'm drilling into the stud, I will have this underneath, and it just sucks up all the drywall dust and the wood shavings that come out. And so that way your cleanup work at the end is less. Now there's not really much cleanup anyway, unless you're doing in-wall cord concealing, then obviously there's gonna be much more, but you always want to clean up after yourself. First, it's just, why wouldn't you as a human being? But as a business, you want to, because it shows that if you're impeccable about the little things, they know that you're probably impeccable about the big thing, which is on their wall, their TV. It's, you know, often rather expensive object to be on the wall, but also a lot of people have kids and they do not want that TV potentially falling on a child. And so be impeccable with the small things, and it'll give confidence to the client that you're impeccable with the big things. The reason I use impact is just because you can change out the bits quicker. That's all. The sort of a side reason is because it makes so much noise when it's going into a stud that the client, it's so loud that the client knows that it's into a stud. If it was just going into drywall, it would just poke right through and wouldn't make any noise at all, wouldn't struggle. But that's a side benefit of using it. And I also carry zip ties, you know, to make the cords clean behind the TV. But that's literally it. So for this video, for the basics, that's all I use. Now I'll go over anchors in a different video. For instance, I often use snap toggles. These are called flip toggles. But I often use these. You know, there's a lot of situations where you'll get one stud and the bracket isn't long enough to hit the other stud, and so you use these. These are rated for 106 pounds a piece. I also buy some that are rated for about $239 a piece. They're serious overkill, but they're not really any more expensive than these. It's just, if I'm out of, you know, I order those on Amazon, the other ones, the more heavy duty ones, and I get these from Best Buy. So if I'm in a pinch, I just stop at Best Buy, grab a case of these, and I'm on my way. And so that's it for the essentials. So in other videos, I'll go through in-wall cord concealing. That's a big one where it'll make you a lot of money. I'll go through, I guess, exterior cord concealing, although that's pretty self-explanatory. We'll go over going into brick, into concrete, and you know, I suppose what I'll start doing now is shooting video at clients' house when they, you know, when they agree to it, obviously, and showing the harder stuff so that you can get an idea. But also, all that stuff is on YouTube. You can easily YouTube it, and I don't want to turn this into a tutorial. The Mounting Man Academy isn't to teach you how to mount TVs. I mean, you can learn that. A lot of you already know it or have businesses in it. I'm doing this for the people who are a little, you know, may have mounted their own TV, may have mounted a buddy's TV or family member's TV, and you really just want to know how I do it, how I've pruned it down to its essence. And so all of you that are already doing it or already have another service-based business and are super handy with, you know, mounting TVs, would be a simple thing for you. You could ignore this section if you want, or you can use it as I could have pruned my situation down to make it a little easier. And so this is what works for me. Do whatever works for you, but this is the essence.